go. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Anna. Welcome to my G Adventures Mount Kilimanjaro review. Wearing my Mount Kilimanjaro shirt in honor. I have not officially done a G Adventures review before. This was my second time traveling with them. I went all throughout Southeast Asia with them previously this past winter, and then traveled again with them this summer to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. I have vlogs of both trips up, so feel free to go check those out. Have my Kilimanjaro bracelet, Kilimanjaro shirt on. I'm ready to go. So I'm gonna break this review up into 7 sections. All my chapters are up, so feel free to click around if you don't want to hear the whole thing. But I'm going to be talking about camping, meals, what's included with G Adventures and what's not included, everything guides and porters, different routes you can take on the mountain, everything training, how hard is it, and medicine, because that's a very important part of this whole puzzle. I also have a really good G Adventures FAQ linked in the description if you want to check that out. That definitely helped me pre-trip a lot, but let's get into it. Hey travel friends, just wanted to pop in really fast and remind you that I am a certified travel advisor with Fora. With being a travel advisor, all of my services are free to you. I can help you with all your travel needs, especially with booking G Adventures tours. Now that I have been to Mount Kilimanjaro and gone through the entire hike and the process and the packing, now I can safely say that I am an expert and can help you choose which route you want to do, choose the right company, whether it's G Adventures or a different company. This is a very difficult trip to prep for, so having someone to guide you will definitely come in handy. So if you're planning on taking the next step in making this adventure become a reality, you can reach out to me at my email, annarichter@fora.travel. It's also in the description, and I'd love to help you turn one of your bucket list items into reality. But that's all for me now. Back to the video. Let's get into it and start with camping. In this section, I'm going to be talking about all things camping and give a daily breakdown, kind of what we did. With the adventures, you do have a little shoe section to leave your hiking boots, but there isn't a floor in that section, so it is just on the dirt. There is a tent liner, so it separates the inside of the tent from the outside to help with waterproofing. You also have a pretty thick sleeping pad provided, so by no means do you need to bring one. I am a pretty bony person, and usually it hurts sleeping on hard surfaces, but this was actually really, really comfortable. I was shocked that I got as good sleep as I did on the sleeping pad. It was probably about 2 inches thick. Sleeping bags are not technically included in your cost. You do have to rent one if you don't bring your own. I used one of the rental sleeping bags and I thought it was perfect. It was a good size. It honestly kept me a lot warmer than it looked, because when it was in the little bag, it was like this big. It was pretty small, but it was thicker and warmer than you would think, which was great because I get cold very easily. The tents were set up for us and broken down for us every single day. We did not have to do any aspect of camping besides sleeping in a tent, so that was really wonderful. The porters were amazing. They would have our tent set up for us before we got to camp, and they'd break it down after we left. They would put our bags in our tents. The only day they had to figure out whose bag was whose was the first day, and then after that our bags were already ready to go in our tent when we got there. I will say, if you are tall, I am 5'8", and with the bags at the foot of our sleeping bag, it was a little tight and I couldn't fully extend without putting my feet on top of my sleeping bag. So if you are on the taller side, that could be an issue for you, especially if you're taller than me. If you aren't sharing a tent, this won't be as big of an issue because you will be able to put your bag next to you versus at the foot of your sleeping bag. Solo tent upgrades are available through G Adventures. It does come at a pretty steep cost. I'm pretty sure for the people that paid for it for our trip, it was over $400. It's definitely an additional cost, but if it's really important to you, go for it. If you book and you don't choose to get your own tent, you're just sleeping beside someone of the same gender. So I shared with a girl, my brother shared with a guy. Honestly, it was a good sized tent. The tent fit both of us comfortably as well as our stuff. I was cozy, so I didn't have any issue with the tent. It is a lot of zippering, a lot of zippering. Any tent would be. I was glad to have the double zipper because it helped keep it a little bit warmer inside. And if you are someone who gets really cold, sharing with somebody definitely helps because at least it's 2 people's body heat inside the tent versus just yours. I think having a tent mate really helped with the warmth of the tent in general. And in the morning, G Adventures provides hot water, hot coffee, hot tea. As soon as you wake up, the porters will come and knock and ask what you want, and they'll provide that to you, so you get a few minutes just to wake up in your tent before you have to get up and go to breakfast. They also provide a bowl of hot water every single night and every single morning besides base camp, because there's no water source close to that camp. But every other day you're gonna get a bowl of hot water once you get to camp and right before you leave, so you can wash your face with that. They call it washi. Once you get into camp, you can also get the dirt off your hands with that water, so you can use it however you like. Obviously you can wash your feet as well. That's what I did multiple times. Your feet are gonna be gross once you get to camp after hiking, but that is pretty much the breakdown on camping. There is a mess tent that you go to have meals in, so we have full table, chairs, sit down meal, so you're really only in your tent to sleep. But I thought everything camping was great. I'll talk about the toilet situation later. So talking about the mess tent, now we're moving on to the meals section. Meals were provided in the mess tent every morning, afternoon, and night. We had all 3 meals of the day in there. Never any meals on the mountain except for Summit. That's a whole different situation. They're all hot meals, all cooked fresh. They did get a whole provisions delivery in the middle of our trip. They brought up fresh ingredients and everything. The food never tasted old or stale or anything like that. You don't have to worry. Drink wise, they always have cold water, hot water provided, so you can make tea or hot chocolate. They have drinking chocolate mix, and they also provided us with ginger tea towards the end to settle people's stomachs when we started going up in elevation, and people definitely loved that. That was a hit. There was no issues with the water. I put liquid IV in every single water that we had. The hot water or the cold water that they provided during the meals, I didn't taste any kind of weird, like salty taste you'd usually get from treating the water. It just tasted like water to me, so it's not like it's gonna taste gross or anything. For breakfast, it usually started with some kind of porridge. It would either be a brown porridge that we called chocolate soup or regular oat porridge. Usually after that, there'd be carbs and protein, so it'd be like a 2-course breakfast. There's usually some kind of omelet, a pancake, which was really a crap, plantains or donuts. It just depends on the morning and what the chef prepared for us. Lunch was a wild card. Usually couldn't exactly predict what we were gonna have. For lunch and dinner, you can usually plan on soup every single time. Here are examples of the lunches we had. Pretty similar to dinner, honestly, but they would be in the middle of our hiking day, usually at camps that we'd just be stopping at just for lunch, and then we'd keep going to the camp we'd spend the night at. Dinner always started with a soup every single time. Then we went on to the main course, which was usually some kind of starch, a protein, and then what they called vegetable sauce, which was really just canned green beans and carrots sauce with it. The vegetable sauce was definitely famous and pretty much showed up at every single dinner. You could count on vegetable sauce being served, so lots of people were sick of the vegetable sauce by the end of the trip. Toward the end, they would bring out salads that people could serve themselves, and they also provided fruit for dessert usually. And one night we had a girl with a birthday, so they made us cake, like an actual cake at 4,600 meters, base camp of the summit. They made us a cake, and the chef killed that. It was so nice of him, and the cake was actually really good. If you have a birthday, you might get cake. By no means do you have to be scared of the food. Obviously, mountain food is not going to be as good as a restaurant is going to serve, because think about all the restraints that the chef has cooking on a mountain. It's pretty incredible that they can make us hot food at all. Some meals I am a pickier eater. I was not as big of a fan of, but they were more than happy to accommodate it and make me something else. Your CEOs want nothing more than for you to eat and be fueled for the hike. If you have a dietary restriction, let them know. They were happy to accommodate vegetarians on my trip, and they actually ended up getting more food than the rest of us. They got massive plates when they had meals that were different from ours. So don't be shy. They will definitely accommodate you if you have any restrictions, but if you're a picky eater like me, also just let them know, ask if you can have something else. They will absolutely make it for you. So now we're moving on to what's included in your G Adventures Kilimanjaro hike. What's included in the price is 1 CEO per 2 travelers. We had a total of 12 hikers. We had 6 CEOs. There was a lead CEO among them, but we had 6 guides in total with us every single day hiking. Along with that, you have about 2 porters per hiker. We had over that because we had rented toilets. I'll talk about that later, but we had some extra porters just because some people reserved tents for a single supplement and stuff like that. That's going to add porters because they need someone to carry the extra tents and toilets and etc. We had about 29 porters plus the 2 chefs. We had a really big crew traveling with us because we were the max amount of guests that G Adventures takes in one group up the mountain. 12 is the max, and we had lots of support, which was great. All your meals, all your drinking water is included. They treat the water every single time for you, so you don't have to worry about that. With the food, you do not have to worry about anyone getting sick or anyone having issues from the food or the water, because it's probably altitude sickness if you're having any issues. All food, all water is provided, along with your tent and sleeping pad. Those are included. You have 2 times daily health checks. That's not really a cost, but it's also included. Every breakfast and every dinner, you're going to have a health check. He asks you a few basic questions, and then you get your heart rate and oxygen rate. You just tell him how you're feeling, and that's the check. Of course, the last thing included is 2 times daily washi-washi. So you do have some form of cleaning yourself, but baby wipes also help a lot with that. Okay, so now what is not included in the G Adventures price? G Adventures has all extra gear that you can rent through them at an additional cost on their website. I'll put screenshots here for you to pause and read, but definitely study this list in case you're doing any extra travel or you don't want to have to pack stuff like a sleeping bag. So everything on this list is not included, but is available at an additional cost. I personally rented 4 things. I rented a sleeping bag, hiking poles, summit pants, which were basically ski pants, and the mobile toilet. For the toilet, this is not included, although it really should be, because it is quite dangerous if you choose not to rent this toilet. If you you have to go find an area that you're allowed to do your business in camp, because obviously on the trail you can pretty much do it anywhere there's cover, but while you're in camp there are only very specific areas that you're allowed to do that in. You would have to go where everybody else is going, and it would just be such an unenjoyable experience, especially if it's in the middle of the night and you're not feeling well and it's cold. If you're gonna take one thing away from this video, please rent the toilet. It is 4 people per toilet, so you get to split it 4 ways. Came out to $59, I believe, US, so it's worth every single penny of that $59, the toilet. It comes in a tent. Here's a picture, so you get a privacy tent, and then this is the toilet. Basically there's a basin under the toilet and it's fully flushable, so it's not even a porta potty, but you pull the shelf out, which opens the hole, and then after you're done you flush it. There's a pump, it has water that flushes it in soap, and then you close the drawer after you're done so it doesn't smell in there. But it was a really enjoyable experience, honestly, as far as mobile toilets go. Better than any porta potty I've ever used, and yeah, I think the most convenient option you can have on a mountain. But unfortunately the toilet is still not included in this price, although it should be, because I can't imagine doing this without the toilet. We did put in our feedback that the toilet should be included, so hopefully in the future they listen to that, but for now, rent the toilet. If you're planning on renting anything, just make sure you bring USD in cash and make sure there are no rips. They were turning our bills away because they don't take any bills with any slight tear, so make sure they're pristine, perfect bills and that you have enough. Okay, now we're moving on to guides and porters. They are the backbone of this experience, and if not for them, I don't think anyone would climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Definitely not the amount of people that climb it now, because I mean, it was already hard enough. Without them, it would be impossible. Guides and porters play such an important part into everybody's Mount Kilimanjaro experience, any mountaineering experience, honestly. This was my first big mountain climb, multiple day hike, first of pretty much everything. So I had no idea what porters did or the extent of what they do. So if you don't already know, they do everything for you, basically. Practically everything except for walk you up the mountain, even though they do that at the summit. They do everything else. But everyone who has successfully reached that summit, it's because the porters do what they do. Like, I think that should just be highlighted right off the bat. They are the most important part in this experience because they aren't just doing their jobs. They go above and beyond what they're paid to do and really just care about all of us and want to make our experience the best it can possibly be and make it the easiest for us it can be. No one asked you to like brush the dirt off my backpack, you know what I mean? But they do nice things like that anyway, and that's because they care about their jobs so much and they genuinely care about us, which is crazy because they're doing one of the hardest jobs in the world, like truly. I just wanted to highlight how incredible porters are in everything they do. They're carrying just so much stuff up a mountain. We're barely able to carry ourselves up this mountain, and they do it time after time. It's really amazing what they do. Going up the mountain, they literally sang us up the summit. We needed a morale boost. We were fading at like 2 a.m. and they started singing at elevation. They sang for like 30 minutes. It wasn't even a quick 2-minute song. He kept singing for 30 minutes because he knew we needed it. They're just amazing people, and I want everyone to know they just make everything as easy and as comfortable for us as possible. They give us hot water before we have to get out of our tents when they start their day an hour before we do. And they made one of our friends a birthday cake because she was really sad it was her birthday and she couldn't talk to her family. Like, such nice things that they don't have to do, and they go the extra mile to do so. Going off of that, what I'm trying to get at is really plan to tip them. I'm sure your experience is going to be as amazing as ours was as porters go. Like, these guys are just gold-hearted in and out, so really plan on having enough to tip. Having USD before you leave is the easiest way to tip them, because getting Tanzanian shillings out of the ATM before you go, it's going to be a lot because you need to get multiple times the max amount, which can rack up your ATM fees, and it's a lot of bills because for some reason their largest bill is like 10,000, which equates to almost nothing USD. It's just easier if you bring USD beforehand. This is G Adventure's guide to tipping. This is what they recommend, and I think they deserve every single penny of it. So currently G Adventures is suggesting 10% of what you paid for your entire hike is a good tip for CEO and porters. I think that is definitely a good amount to start with, because once you see all the stuff that these guys do, you're gonna want to give them everything you can. It's definitely a hefty amount for what you're already paying for this trip just for 6 days or however many days you're on the mountain. They deserve it. It's simple. They like really do deserve it. When I saw the tipping amount beforehand, I was like, wow, like that's a lot of money. But after experiencing it, I was like, it makes sense. It truly does make sense. So the tipping amount is going to be split into 2. Your CEO will provide you with 2 envelopes. So one goes just to CEOs and the other goes to all the porters, and you're told to make it an even amount. So however much everybody's tipping, split it into 2. Just make sure you have enough because these guys deserve it. So now we're moving on to routes, different routes you can take up the mountain. I personally took the 6-day machame route. This is known as the hardest beginner route to go up the mountain. I did not know that beforehand. I just knew that it was one of the cheaper ones on G Adventures. I wish they had made that very clear in the description because little did I know we were getting 4 hours of sleep before trying to summit, which was really, really brutal. Luckily, we all made it, but if I had known this, I would have chosen the 7-day machame route to be able to get enough sleep before summit night to make sure we had the energy. So that is another option you can do. Machame and Lemosho are known as the most scenic, but Lemosho definitely has a lot more days on the mountain, a lot more time to sleep. If you want to go as fast as possible, that's doable, and that you can still summit, I would say Machame 7 day is a great route to do. If you want to spend the least amount of money and you're confident you could do it, I would say Machame 6 day, you can try. But it was hard, guys. It was hard. And if you want the maximum amount of acclimatization time, if you want the maximum amount of sleep, then Lemosho is a great route to do. It is a little more pricey than Machame, but you are paying for those extra days on mountain, all that extra sleep, all that extra acclimatization. It is known as probably the most scenic route on the mountain. Another route you can take is the Coca-Cola route, otherwise known as the Morongo route. This route has huts, so you won't be sleeping in tents, but it is also one of the most popular routes. So you are gonna have a lot of foot traffic, a lot of other people if you're going in high season. We also went in high season in August for the Machame route, and there were definitely a lot of people, lots of porters we had to stop for to let them go. I wouldn't say it got to the point where it was annoying. Like, I was happy to take those breaks and stop for the porters personally, but if you don't want to run into more people, I would say don't do the Morongo route because most people do that route because of the huts. Depends on what you're looking for. If you want less people, I would say go to Lemosho. We saw groups just walking completely by themselves doing the Lemosho route because Machame and Lemosho are very close to each other and end up joining at one point. But since Lemosho is a little more pricey, less people go for that route. But my CEO also called it lazy Lemosho. So if that's you, go for it. But for acclimatization, you should definitely do a 6-day minimum route. So that's all for routes. And now we're going to move on to training. How hard really is hiking Mount Kilimanjaro? A typical day breakdown, you wake up at 6:30 and you're leaving camp at 8. We woke up at 6:30, packed up, ready to go, have our day packs ready, tried to be out of our tent around 7 for breakfast. You have breakfast for an hour, do your checky, so you're doing your health check, and then everybody rolls out of camp at 8. All the porters are packing your tents, packing everything up, and you guys leave at 8 and they're gonna catch up and surpass you. Usually in the middle of your hike day, you have lunch, usually around noon sometime, maybe longer depending on the day. Full mess tent, sit down, relax, meal. After that, you finish your route, get to camp, your tent's already set up for you. You can immediately sit down, you get your washi, and then dinner was usually at like 6:30. So we would go have dinner and then go straight to bed. First day was a lot longer because we had a big briefing, so we didn't get to bed around 9. But now that I'm thinking about it, we got a pretty good amount of sleep every single night except for summit night, and I was still exhausted. Like, I was still so tired and did not want to wake up in the morning, but we were on average getting at least 9 hours. So that was pretty good. As far as how hard this hike is, Mount Kilimanjaro is known as a good beginner hike just because it's not technical. So that means you don't need any gear, you don't need any crampons, you don't need anything for ice. That would be more technical. There's no ropes. So it's all just trekking up the hill. And the only gear you need is hiking poles if you use them. But that does not mean that this hike is easy. From someone who has never done this before, that's how I took it. And I was like, oh, it's known as a beginner hike. Like, it's probably easy. No, the summit is very, very hard. I should have trained much more than I did. Before this hike, I hadn't trained until I looked at YouTube videos of people vlogging their experience, and I saw how many people were crying, how many people were saying, guys, it's no joke, like, you need to train for this. And I was like, oh, I should probably train. So 3 weeks prior to leaving for Africa, I walked around my neighborhood for 4 miles with a weighted vest on. I went on an elliptical for an hour a day, and if I had access to a gym, I would do the Stairmaster. I would say definitely the Stairmaster is the best way to train for this. You could also do an incline treadmill. That would be a good way, but I will say do not forget to train for downhill, because going down was really, really brutal on the knees. I had not trained for downhill at all, and after you're so exhausted from hiking all those days and doing the summit, going down just sucks. Make sure your muscles are ready to go down, because if you haven't done any downhill, it's gonna be awful. I will say every day the Machame route was pretty doable. I struggled the first day because I had way too much weight in my backpack. I had way too much stuff in there. I should have taken a bunch of stuff out that I didn't need and put it in my duffel bag. That's the reason I struggled the end of the first day. But every other day, I honestly was okay. Of course you're tired. tired, you're walking for so long, it was definitely doable, even going off from my small amount of training. The only hard part was summit night. And I'm not gonna say the other days were easy, because they weren't easy. It wasn't a walk in the park, but it was doable. But summit night was straight awful. I don't even know how to describe the pain of summit night, because unless you've done it, you can't understand. If you've hiked other summits before, I'm sure you can understand, but this one is so boring. Like, it's so boring and it's so cold and you feel awful. The air's so thin and it's the middle of the night and you're going straight up for hours. I really don't know how to describe it other than it was terrible. So back to training, I would definitely suggest at least training for 3 months before your hike. Really try to get in shape. G Adventures says you should train for 6 months before your hike. I would say if you're completely out of shape, 6 months would be good. But if you're regularly working out already, specialize your training for 3 months before. Don't know what I was thinking for 3 weeks, but luckily I still made it because I'd be so sad if I had failed. Obviously everybody's different. Everybody's coming from different places, different lifestyles. So really be honest about your abilities with yourself and prepare is all I can say. Prepare for this trip, because this is not a trip where you can come unprepared. It's just not. So I'm making a whole separate section for summit night. I just decided because it's such its own beast. But to kind of describe what summit night is like, we woke up at 11 p.m. for summit night starting at 12 a.m. We had some snacks like popcorn provided to us. We had dinner at 7:30 a few hours before, so we weren't hungry because it was the middle of the night. But you basically get your gear ready to go. You drink some water, you have some popcorn maybe, and then you start. Everybody in our camp was starting. It took a while just to get out of camp, Barafu. I had my playlist going. I felt great for the first 2 hours, and then my bag started feeling really heavy with all the water. For summit night, you can only stop every single hour. You don't get breaks every 30 minutes like usual. It's just once an hour and no more than 10 minutes because of the altitude and because you're so exhausted that if you get more than that, you're just not gonna want to get up. And people were falling asleep. That would be really bad. And it's so cold, so you can't fall asleep or your heart rate's gonna get too low. So we got breaks once an hour. I ended up giving my bag up at like 2 a.m. So only 2 hours in. It was too heavy. I couldn't do it. Just lugging myself up that mountain was a battle in itself. So I can't imagine all the people who kept their bags. Like, truly superstars. I don't know how you did it. We had one porter/guide per person, so everybody could pass their bags off if they needed to, but you do start with your bag. I didn't know that going into it. I thought we were just gonna have someone carrying our bag the whole time. You just pass it off when you need to. Every break, they're gonna tell you to drink water, tell you to eat something if you can. I ate something the first break and didn't eat until we got back down and had lunch. So I did not eat for over 12 hours. For your water, you're supposed to bring a regular water bottle like a Nalgene and your Camelback. The Camelback will freeze probably 3 hours in, and they tell you to push the water back into the bag so it doesn't get frozen in the tube. Even doing that, it still froze for me at like 3 a.m. You have your water bottle for a backup, but carrying all that water definitely makes an impact. I would say maybe carry 1 liter. Don't have them fill it up the whole way. The water's so heavy. You really don't understand how heavy the water can be when you're carrying it up this mountain. The trail for summit night from Barafu up to Stella Point is just like this, switchback after switchback, all on scree, which is just broken up gravel and dirt. It's almost like sand, and you're just walking up for hours on end. It's really cold once you get high up. For me, my nose was running the entire time, and my nose got so raw from like wiping it constantly. That was a really bad problem for me because I just had a super raw nose and it hurt so much. But you're just going up an endless mountain, essentially. It feels endless. Eventually, the sun rose at about 6 a.m. for us. That was like our shining hope, because from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. I seriously was like, wow, I don't know if I can do this. I never thought about turning back, but it was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. I definitely said that in my vlogs. You can go watch it. I didn't record anything from summit night because I just couldn't bring myself to even pull my phone out of my pocket. That's how bad it was. Even when there was a gorgeous sunrise right in front of me, I was sitting down, I couldn't pull my phone out. And knowing me, that's like so bad. It was just brutal, the whole thing. Even after the sun rose, it was still really hard, but at least it was getting warmer a little bit. But of course, you're still climbing up in elevation, so it's still getting colder. My toes were freezing, but once the sun came up, I could start to feel them again. It got really bad at one point and I couldn't feel them. They had stopped hurting, and that's when you know, like, oh no, it's bad. So I'll go into like packing and everything in a separate video. I put on my toe warmers upside down, so they weren't working, and that was a big mistake. But I was so delirious at 11 p.m. that it didn't work out. But we finally got up to Stella Point. Once you get up there, you don't get to take a break. Like, I think 2 people took a picture with the sign, and then we had to keep going to the summit. Like, you have to keep pushing. Stella Point isn't even an accomplishment, which really hurt. So it was about 45 minutes to the actual summit from Stella Point, and it wasn't as hard terrain-wise, but you were exhausted. Once you get to the summit, I wasn't even feeling anything anymore. I don't even know if I was happy. Like, my brain wasn't functioning. I was just happy I could sit down. But once you get to the summit, you can only only stay up there for 20-30 minutes max because of the altitude. You get to celebrate for that little time, then you gotta head back down. What I didn't know is heading down is almost just as hard as going up. Of course, it takes half the time. It took 8 hours to go up and 4 hours to go down. But wow, it really hurt because of all of the loose gravel and dirt. It's super, super hard to go down without slipping, even with hiking poles. So they had porters like carrying people by their armpits and like helping them down. You're just so exhausted from going up. It was just so brutal going down. And you're like, I already did it. Why can't I just be back at camp in my sleeping bag? But you still have 4 hours to go. Also going up, we saw so many people having medical issues. They were being rushed down the mountain on oxygen, or they were passed out and porters were literally carrying them down the mountain. People were throwing up, people were falling. Like, it was really scary, honestly. And you just have to block it all out and keep pushing. So you keep going up the mountain and like you have to just ignore what's going on around you, essentially. I don't want to say any of this to scare anybody if you've never done this before, but these are just the realities of hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. Summit night is horrendous. It really is. But if you heard all of this and you're like, oh, I can still do it, I still want to do it, go for it, because you won't regret it. And it's a really amazing accomplishment to make. Okay, now we're at the last section, medicine. After watching so many videos, I was terrified of getting altitude sickness. So I asked for Diamox from my doctor, which is basically altitude sickness prevention medicine. I took it, my brother took it, pretty much everybody on our trip except for 2 girls were taking it. None of us got super bad altitude sickness symptoms, which was great. And the girls who weren't taking it, one was perfectly fine. She had no issues except for being cold. And the other one did get a good amount of nausea from the altitude, but everybody else was only having gastrointestinal problems. Other than that, not really something you can fix with altitude sickness medicine, but I highly recommend it. I think if I had gotten altitude sickness, it would have ruined my chance of making it up that mountain. So if you can get your hands on it, definitely ask your doctor, see if your insurance will cover it. Mine did. What I didn't know coming from Kenya, where I was taking malaria medication, is that on the mountain, there are no bugs, apparently. So we were told to stop the malaria medicine and not take it while we were on the mountain. I ended up not restarting once we got back into Moshi. You were technically supposed to, because there are still bugs when you're back down, but on the mountain they say don't take it because it can have a bad reaction with Diamox for some people. So if you are taking that, then definitely don't take your malaria medication. We were also told that malaria medication makes you weaker, can make you slower, so that was another reason why we were told to stop taking it. And if you need it, if you're doing travel after, you can just restart once you get back down the mountain, so you don't need to worry about having any side effects from stopping and restarting. So the yellow fever vaccine is required for entry into Tanzania. I did get it. I didn't have any reactions to it, but they definitely do ask for your card. They ask to see proof. They don't read the card. They just kind of want to see that you have it. Not sure what that was all about, but you definitely need to have proof that you have had the vaccine to enter Tanzania. They also asked for it when we left Tanzania, but yellow fever vaccine is required, so plan on getting that before you go. Going off of medicine, lots of people had gastrointestinal issues on the mountain. I luckily did not, because I've had too many issues on other trips. Thankfully, this one was okay. But lots of people suffer from constipation during this trip. The mountain affects people differently. Altitude affects people differently, so it could easily go the other way depending on the person, but most people had constipation. You should have laxatives just in case. I know lots of people wish they had them because some people didn't poop the whole time. That would be very uncomfortable, but I would just have Imodium and laxatives and Pepto. Just bring all of it because obviously there's no pharmacy on the mountain, so you want anything and everything you could possibly need. Definitely bring pain medicine. I know headaches were a big thing on the mountain. I would say that's the only symptom of altitude sickness people got besides the constipation. I got one headache one night and took my pain medicine and it was fine the next morning, luckily. I would also bring anti-nausea medicine just in case. I know it is harder to get in the US, but if you can get it, I would bring it just in case, because feeling nauseated is one of the worst feelings in the world, and you don't want to have to hike for 8 hours while feeling like that. Okay, I think that is everything that I was going to cover in this video. Just my big review of G Adventures, this experience with them. I definitely felt safe in their hands. They've been doing this for years. I felt very safe with our guides, and our porters were amazing, as I said. I would definitely recommend going up the mountain with G Adventures. If they had a sleeping bag and the toilets included, then I would be 100% in. It's just that they don't include those. Everything else they excel in. I'm glad I attempted summiting with this company, and because of them, I was able to summit. Super happy about my choice. Just wish I knew about the Machame 7-day route beforehand. Now you know, and that's the most important thing. So if this video helped you, Hey travel friends, this is the last time I'm going to be popping in from the future, but just wanted to add a final reminder that I am a certified travel advisor, and if you've made it this far in the video, you're obviously very interested in hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. Whether that's with G Adventures or not, I would be happy to help either way. If you didn't hear before, my services are completely free to you. There are so many things that go into planning this trip and this bucket list hike, like picking your best route, the training, your packing, the prep, everything that you need to handle beforehand, I got you. And I have all the information I've given in this video and more to make sure that you have a successful Kilimanjaro summit. So if you'd like to chat about which route would be best for you, whether that's with G Adventures or another company, I'd be happy to talk at my email at annarichter@foratravel. As a travel advisor, I also have access to exclusive deals and perks that G Adventures puts out. So definitely send me a message either way, just to make sure you're getting the best deal. Back to me fresh off the summit. Yeah, I think that's all for this video. As always, if you have any other questions, leave a comment down below or message me on my Instagram and I'd be happy to answer. I do have more Kilimanjaro content coming. I am gonna make a packing video and a tip video as well, so look out for those. And my vlog of this trip should be up, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. But thanks for watching and I will see you guys in the next one.